What's up, guys? So if you like those videos and you're considering putting a cam in your 5.9 Magnum, I would say absolutely go for it. The cams that are in these things stock are terrible. I mean, they're pretty freaking small. I mean, I've seen even people that do dyno runs on multiple engines, they'll say that these are very small cams. Like, they really drop the ball on that. And really all they take is just a little bit of cam and they run a lot better. They really do. And on top of that, the kegger intake, a lot of people know that they're not that great. I mean, they're great for low wind torque, and if you're towing something or pulling something, they're awesome. But if you're trying to do some racing or anything of that nature where you're wanting higher RPM horsepower, then absolutely ditch that thing. Unless, you know, if you're on a budget or something, I can understand why you wouldn't. Or if you're turboing it, I mean, you're just going to make more torque, but it will pick up some power as well. I mean, obviously, if you put a turbo on anything, it's going to pick up power. But you're going to get more torque than you do power, even with the kegger. Because whatever you do with a turbo, it's going to multiply whatever you are making naturally aspirated. So, hence, with the kegger, you're probably making more torque than you are horsepower. So you're going to make more torque than you do horsepower with boost. It'll just be multiplied by whatever percent. But anyway, that's besides the point. I figured I'd throw that video out there just in case anybody else is wondering about putting a cam in their Magnum. Like I said, I really enjoy it. And if you're looking for the chop, I'll tell you this, the lobe separation angle is what you want to find, especially with a cam like a 214, 218 duration. They tend to have a lot of chop if you get the low lobe separation angle. Now, the bigger the cam goes, you can get away with a higher lobe separation angle and it still have that chop. But if you're just after chop, then I would just say get one that's a 109, 110, something like that. Or if you just want a little bit of a chop, just a 112, something along those lines. Actually, this one has a 109 lobe separation angle. And as you can see, it's not going to have the carburetor anymore. So if you want to see what this thing sounds like without the carburetor and with fuel injection, stick around and we'll be starting this thing shortly. I know I've said that in previous videos, and it seems like every time I say that, there's more stuff to be done, and there is still some stuff to be done. Currently, as far as this, I just got the transmission sorted out where when you pull on this throttle, or right here, and it'll go ahead and pull my transmission lever down at the bottom of the transmission. Oh, I can't really do it all at once, but it's down there, trust me. There's a little lever on there and it has to pull it to change the pressure at which the transmission pressure, so that way I can shift better and all that. And trust me, you won't hook that up, because I made the mistake of not hooking it up properly and I just toasted a brand new transmission. So make sure that's right. Do whatever you got to. But anyway, I figured I'd just throw this video out there in case anybody else was dealing with something or wanted to understand a little bit more about the cams and everything. The 214, 218 duration cam really isn't that big, although, I mean, you ought to get different valve springs for it, of course. But they're really, in the grand scheme of things, that's a pretty small cam. It's definitely better than stocks. I think stock, they're like 190 something on the duration, and that's not very good. And I mean, most vehicles are, but they're like low 190s. I don't remember exactly what the spec was, but they're pretty low. And then the lift is only like 410. These cams have a 532, 539 lift. I think it's 532 on the intake and 539 on the exhaust. But anyway, that's a whole lot better than the alternative. Now, as far as the lift goes on these motors, I don't know what the heads flow. Really, that's the best way to kind of gauge that. But once again, duration is how long the valves stay open, and that makes the biggest difference. But I'm sure lift does play a factor. I'm not real sure on this combo particularly, but it does sound a lot better to have 500 lift versus 400 something. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it. I definitely don't regret putting a cam in this thing. Honestly, I don't know what it would have ran like with a stock cam. I never ran it with a stock cam. As soon as I got this motor, I put a cam in it immediately. I read a bunch of stuff online. Everybody was saying put a cam in it, put a cam in it. So that's what I did. And also, as you can see, I got the Hughes FI air gap on mine, so that helps a lot, which obviously on my other truck I didn't have that. I had the Edelbrock air gap, which is the same thing, just got fuel injectors in it. But anyways, so real quick, I was gonna let y'all know what's going on with the truck in case anybody was wondering about that. As you can see, like I said, I was messing around with the transmission linkage deal, but also this is my fuel regulator, and it's got a pressure sensor right here so I can see my fuel pressure, and we got a little vacuum hose. I haven't finished that yet, but basically, as you see, it's wrapped up right here. But basically, it's just gonna go on the side of my intake. I got some nipples over here sticking out of them. As you can see, there's one right there. It's just gonna go right on there. But what that does is under boost, it allows it to have a 1-to-1 ratio. So like say I got 1 PSI of boost, it's gonna give it 1 PSI more fuel, you know. So I don't really understand it completely, but I do know that somebody was talking about this on one of the, I'm on some online classes, and they talk about boost and tuning and all this stuff. I'm trying to learn how to do this so that way I can make this as seamless as possible, and that way I'll know in the future. But anyway, essentially, as you got 1 PSI, you also got 1 PSI inside the cylinder. So say you're running 35 PSI fuel on your engine. Well, now with the 1 PSI boost, you're really running 34 PSI out of the injector. So to compensate for that, you have a 1-to-1 ratio fuel regulator, so that way it'll add 1 PSI fuel to kind of cancel out the one that you lost from the boost pressure. But I don't really know exactly how that works. It seems to me like with the cylinder pressure and everything, it wouldn't really make a difference, but I guess it does. So anyway, what do I know? Like I said, I'm still learning about all this, so it kind of makes sense to me. I can see that. But anyway, so that's what that's there for. And also I've heard that whenever you're naturally aspirated, like I'm going to be for a little bit, it does help with your fuel economy, because it also, as the vacuum will pull away PSI from your injector or whatever, it'll do the same thing. So it'll also, say if I'm running 10 inches of mercury, I think that's how it's measured, it'll pull out 10 PSI fuel, which I can see where that could also be kind of a hassle, because you're trying to figure it out on the Holly system and it's pulling out this much fuel and you're like, what the heck? But I think as long as you kind of compensate for that and you keep that in mind, it won't be that big of a deal. And like I say, it might help with the fuel economy, so we'll see. I'll let y'all know how I feel about that after I've run a little bit like that. But yeah, so I got the 8A in line so far, running from here to here. I have not put the fuel pump on yet. I actually just pulled the old fuel lines out. They used to come out right here, and I pulled the fuel tank out as well. I'll show you that real quick. It wasn't too bad. We actually ended up cutting these brackets off because we're not going to use them anyway. But here's the fuel tank, and then you can see my fuel lines. My old fuel lines are sitting here in the bed, and I know I got a lot of stuff in the bed. There's still a lot of stuff to do, but yeah. So I figured I'd just show y'all real quick what I've been up to, and next week we're going to try to put the fuel cell in. As you can see, I got on the lift now, so it'll be a lot easier doing that kind of thing. And we're going to run the fuel line down to the fuel pump, and then from the fuel pump to the fuel cell, which I haven't mounted the fuel pump yet. I found a spot to mount it. I'll show you all that in the next video. But once we do all that, then we're going to be pretty dang close to the first fire up. I still got to figure out what I'm going to do about my throttle linkage. As you can see, this is not going to reach. I think I mentioned that in another video, but this is far too far away. You can see it's supposed to go through this little bracket here and then hook right here, up here, and that way it can it'll pull on it. But this isn't going to reach. I'm going to have to use one off of another Magnum. But the good thing about this is they did use these on the 5.9 Magnums, were used in the 93 D150, so I might just be able to order the throttle cable for a 93 D150 and it might work. But I'll just do some research, because I can probably make the one that I have already work. Like I said, I got that other Magnum in that other truck. I'm going to pull that off of it, and that way I can pull the throttle cable off of that one. That way I can make this one work. But anyways, y'all stay tuned, and next week we'll put a video out there about the fuel cell install and all that. And I might do another video on the base tune for this truck when I can get it started and everything. I can't really do much tuning until it's actually running. And I'll get to all that when we get there. But yep, y'all stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.